Ariel Helwani in Sacramento, California, just days away from UFC on Fox 9 alongside UFC President Dana White. And last time we saw UFC President Dana White, he was not in this good of a mood just a few weeks ago. And you received a lot of heat. People were calling for your head. People were calling for you to step down. What was that like in the aftermath? Did you feel like maybe you took it a little too far with your criticism of not only Nevada but GSP as well?
Do I think that I went too? No. Listen, I think that I have a little bit of a meltdown. Did I freak out? I did, but it happens. And whoever doesn't like it, I don't give a shit.
When you say a meltdown, was it more because of not being in the know? He didn't tell you what was going on. He was ambiguous, or was it because of the result? Why did you have that meltdown?
No, I wouldn't say. I would say that it was a combination of a lot of things. Obviously, who has been yelling about officiating louder and longer than me? Nobody. And it's just, eventually you get to a point where you get to the end of your rope and you snap. And I literally snapped. I'm never going to be in a position where I snap and freak out and I get whatever and I'm I'm upset that I got that emotional. Fuck that. It's very well known that I'm a very emotional person, number one. And number two, I love this sport. I love the UFC. And, I had a night where I was done. I was done, and I just fucking freaked out. You know what I mean?
Speaking of George, you told me yesterday you had a conference call with him set for today.
Yeah.
Did it happen yet?
No, not yet. We're going to talk. Lorenzo and I are talking to George today, I think around 4 o'clock.
Can I come to the conference call, at least listen to it?
You want to come to the conference
Well, it's
call?
big news. A lot of people wondering what he's going to say.
I don't think that would be very fair to George if I let
You
you.
have to tell him.
That wouldn't be fair to George either.
What do you think he's going to say?
You know what? And speaking about George, and I talked about this with Showdown Joe yesterday. It's like, when I freaked out on him a little bit, nobody said more good things about George St-Pierre than I have over the years. And it's a fact. If I had 500 guys under contract that were like George St-Pierre, my life would be pretty simple. I have nothing but respect for the guy. And let's be honest here, too. A lot of the things that I said were taken out of context, too, where I was saying, he owes it to this. I didn't say he couldn't retire. He can retire. Anybody can retire. The one thing that I never do, if you even mention the word retire in this sport, you should probably retire. But he never mentioned the word retire. He didn't say that. You know what I mean? He never said that he wanted to retire. People around him were saying that, not him. He can retire whenever the hell he wants to, and we would not only support it, but, George St-Pierre has been a big part of this company for a long time, and he's always been a stand-up guy. But if you ask me, his Kardashian that he has hanging around with him there, was talking.
Stuff me do.
Whatever his name is, was talking all this smack. I never heard of the guy before in my life, and then he pops in for that fight and starts saying that.
You apologized. You called him.
The stuff that he said is not true, and it's just the typical thing of a person who gets around somebody as big and as famous as George St-Pierre is, and those things happen. But none of that was true. Obviously, yes, I had good conversations with George after the thing. I still haven't watched that fight again. I still haven't seen the fight. But that's it. Just to clarify all that stuff.
Just curious, what do you think he's going to say to you at 4 o'clock?
No idea.
No hunches.
I got a couple hunches.
What do you think?
To keep my hunches to myself. That's what I think.
It's interesting though, when you were upset and you said some things about Nevada, but here we are in California. You talked about Andy Foster, who has been gaining a lot of support. Wrote this open letter about how he would change and why it needs to be changed. You're going to say something?
Yeah, I don't want to get into all this bullshit again. But he came up to me today and said, just to let you know, we have all the best refs and judges here that, the best in the business. We've got them all here, and we think that there's, that's all I want from a commission. Not just Nevada, any commission. I mean, we're regulated by the government. We're regulated by the government because if you looked at boxing, we know the past of boxing. These regulators had to come in and make sure that everything was on the up and up and fair, and, that's what I want. That's what I want. These guys work so hard and train so hard, and this isn't baseball. where we play 200 games a year, however many, I don't know how many there are. Basketball, where there's so many games a year, you live fight by fight. And not only that, but your legacy and everything that in your career is based on fight by fight basis, including your money. So it's fair to ask to have the best guys there. And the other thing that should happen in this sport, just like football and these other sports, is if a decision is made and there's any question whatsoever in the decision, we should be able to go in there, review it, the commission reviews it, and they overturn the decision if it's wrong. If somebody made a mistake, we're all human beings, we all make mistakes, it happens. But there should be a review process so that justice is done and the right thing is done after the fight.
Let's move along to the main event on Saturday night. Is this one of those rare cases where there's actually more pressure on the challenger as opposed to the champion? Because if Benavidez loses in his hometown, he will have lost twice to Dominic Cruz, 135, twice to Demetrius. And there's been all this talk about Bang Ludwig and what he's done this year, but at the end of the day, they've always been contenders. They've never gotten the strap, Team Alpha Male. If he can't get them the strap, it says something, right? Is there more pressure on him than Demetrius?
Probably, yeah. I'm sure there's a ton of pressure. The kid's in it to win the title. I mean, he wants to win the title. He wants to be the champion. And it would just be the icing on the cake if he could bring the first belt to his team. But I think he's more concerned about winning this fight than any of the other stuff. But, yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you. It's a big deal, and I'm sure there's a lot of pressure that goes along with it.
Does Uriah Faber, in my opinion, Uriah Faber, correct me if I'm wrong, he is the most popular fighter below 170. Still, as a non-champion, could be your biggest draw. Certainly under 155, right? California kid, he's a very big draw. Does he need a UFC title, though, to cement his legacy? Is that missing for him, sort of like a great NBA player without the ring?
Definitely, yeah. And I'm sure if you asked him that question, he'd say...
He says no. I asked him yesterday.
Well, there you go. Guess it doesn't mean shit to him.
But you disagree.
So what's the point of all this? Just cruising around, doing fights?
Well, he says he's done enough, and he was the WEC champion when it was Zuffa, so it was kind of in the same organization. But the UFC belt means a little more, right?
You're full of shit, Uriah.
You don't believe him.
I'm not buying it.
What do you think of
I think that's an easy way. That's an easy answer to kind of take the pressure off and, not to bury himself in that kind of pressure. But on the flip side, he is a pretty laid-back dude. He's very laid-back and very whatever, but he's also very aggressive and very competitive.
What do you think of the back and forth between Mendez and Lentz? Lentz sporting a great bow tie, plaid shirt combo, but really that was the star of this press conference, and we've never really seen Chad Mendez like that before.
No, I loved it. I think that, first of all, Nick Lentz's attitude is exactly what I like. It's like when we were just talking about Faber. What the fuck are you here for unless you want to be the best, and you want to face the best, and you want to beat the best? And I love that attitude. I love that. And I feel like with these two, it's that I'm tired of being overlooked. I'm tired of all the work I've done. I'm tired of all the people that I've knocked out. I'm tired of all the fights that I've won and not be recognized. I'm ready to be fucking recognized. I'm ready to step up and face whoever it takes and beat whoever it takes to make this happen. And there is nothing on this earth I love more than that attitude.
Mac Danzig said he didn't have any sponsors for this fight. We've heard this from a few guys. Mark Hunt didn't have any sponsors last week. Came out shirtless, no banner. Is this becoming a problem?
Well, trust me, it's what a lot of people, well, maybe a lot of people do realize. The economy isn't getting any better. Okay, I don't care who says what. The economy's not getting any better. There's the money isn't flying around like it used to fly around, and guys sit back and they look at a situation with like, all right, I'm gonna put my money on a guy for one fight, and I'm gonna go in and do this. But in typical UFC fashion, we're fixing this problem. We're working on this issue right now, and we will fix it, and we're damn close to fixing it. And when we get this thing solved, it's going to be great for everybody. For guys who fight, a guy who just walked into the UFC, all the way up to, Cain Velasquez.
How are you going to fix it?
Because that's what we do.
How are you going to do it?
Well, when I get it done, I'll tell you how we're fixing it.
You can't tell us now what you're doing?
No.
Okay. Speaking of Mark Hunt, can you give us a glimpse? You weren't there in Australia, but what were you like? Because I have this mental image of you somewhere in Las Vegas.
No, I was in San Diego.
Okay. Tell us how you were reacting to that.
I was in San Diego, and what happens now is when we can't be there live at a fight, we set up this whole production area where we literally run the fight from wherever we are in the world. And I was in a ballroom in Torrey Pines, right outside of San Diego, and I was literally jumping around the room like a maniac. The sickest heavyweight fight I've ever seen. And just to give you an example, for 4 days after that, every morning when I opened my eyes to wake up, the first thing I thought of was Mark Hunt and Bigfoot Silva. When you're a fight fan, when you're like a hardcore fight fan, like I am, and you'll have your moments, if you watch fights, you're like, oh my God, this is a great fight. But when you're a true fight fan, that is one of those fights. You're lucky if you are able to see 3 of those type of fights in your lifetime. And that was just one of those fights. When you talk about not just fighting, but sports, talk about that dogged determination and heart and the will to win and toughness and just everything that you can think about that a sport or fighting is about. That fight right there sums it all up. It is one of the, this is the stupidest thing I've ever said, and I've said some stupid things, but this is it. I don't have Bigfoot Silva's phone number. You know what I mean? Mark Hunt and I talk through Twitter on DM.
Wow.
Okay? So Mark Hunt and I have been going back and forth. I've been acting like a 12-year-old girl, and he's Justin Bieber. I mean, I literally have...
In awe of him.
I'm telling you, I'm in awe of both of them. I'm in awe of both of them. And I have so much respect and just, it's just, I don't even know how to explain it. That's how sick that fight was.
Which island are they going to get?
Yeah, that's how crazy I was that night. I want to buy them both their own islands.
Speaking of buying things, how did you take a division from Invicta and put it into the UFC? How does this happen?
How does any of this stuff happen that we've done in the last 13 years? This is what we do, and I think that, obviously as the women's side of this sport continues to grow and get bigger, a company like Invicta is very important. They give opportunities for these women not only to get experience, but to make money and to stay in the business. So it's important for me, for that company to exist.
What kind of deal did you cut with Shannon Knapp?
Listen, she assigned me the contracts, and we figured it out.
But you don't own Invicta, or you don't fund Invicta.
I don't fund Invicta. I don't own Invicta. I'd have nothing to do with Invicta.
Okay. Just 2 more things. Can you explain to us now, this is the first time we see you, Ben Askren, he went to ONE FC, that meeting that you had with him, why wasn't he unable to sell you on why you should be in the UFC?
Yeah, I obviously I heard that he had a lot of negative things to say, especially about me. First of all, we didn't ask for that meeting. He asked for that meeting. There was never any, like, oh, let's meet with Ben Askren. Ben Askren wanted that meeting, and this is a business and a sport where, you saw the whole Rampage thing, how that went down. We bring in the best guys in the world. They compete. They win world titles. They do whatever. But at the end of the day, it's still a business, and you want to be in business with guys that want to be in business with you, guys that are happy. I can just tell from the comments that were made that Ben Askren just isn't one of those kind of guys. He's not a guy. Then I'm hearing just stupidness that the reason he went to ONE FC is because he heard that I wanted him to go to World Series of Fighting. I don't give a fuck where he goes. He can go fight in fucking ABC and on fucking Pluto for all I care. I wanted him to go to World Series of Fighting. I don't give a shit where the guy goes, personally. But there's competition at World Series of Fighting. There was no competition at Bellator. I didn't even know ONE FC was still in business. And I'm not taking a shot at these guys. I have nothing against them. I didn't even know they still existed. World Series of Fighting, I have nothing to do with World Series of Fighting and whatever. They have competition there. There's actually competition where the guy, it sounds to me like this guy wants to walk in somewhere, make a shitload of money, and I don't know. He's just not my kind of guy.
We spoke to Marshall Zelaznik about the new digital network.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing he didn't really know was how much it's going to cost. Do you know?
No. Obviously that's something we're working on. We've been doing tons of focus groups and we'll get it dialed in. We'll get this thing figured out. And I can tell you this. Every time we do something new and people like, they're going to charge for this stuff. This is a business and we're going to charge for it. But this digital network is sick. There's tons of live fights that are going to be on this thing. Tons of original stuff that people have never seen. It's trust me when I tell you, it's going to be priced fairly, and it's going to be awesome. People who are into fights are going to love this thing.
Okay, and final news, some very devastating, some very devastating news regarding Shane Del Rosario earlier this week, him passing away. Have you had a chance to talk to his family or his friends? Some of his friends obviously fight in the UFC, just about how they're coping with this.
I talked to them right from the get-go, the first day that he went into the hospital. But, obviously it's horrible. He was a great guy and everything else, but they don't want me to talk about it, so I'd rather not talk about it.
Understand. Thank you very much for the time. Enjoy the show on Saturday, and looking forward to it very much.
Thank you.